Good evening, Space Monkeys, and welcome to Freelancing. I'm your host, BlueHighwind, and this is a show about nothing. Which is not to mean it's not Seinfeld, because it's not Seinfeld. If you want Seinfeld, that's on TBS. And there's plenty of great reruns. It's still funny after all these years. No, this is an unscripted nonsense program, which I put on YouTube because I'm lazy like that, and I talk into my microphone about random subjects every couple of weeks. Normally, they are fictional subjects. In fact, they were always fictional subjects, but they're always kind of nerdy, more whatever comes into my mind, and I decide, you know what? Let's talk about that. So, this week, or this time, we are going to be talking about the Simpsons Family Guy crossover. And I feel like I have to do this one because a year ago, what was pretty much the first Freelancin before I started calling this Freelancing, I did an episode, or I just talked into my microphone about Brian Griffin's death. You might recall a year ago, Family Guy, which has been terrible for many, many years now, as kind of a big stunt, decided that they were going to kill off a major character. Kill off in quotation marks, because he came back almost immediately. The whole thing was a big, huge, ridiculous stunt. Absolute, just friggin' cash grab. Here, we got no friggin' ideas. Here, Brian's dead for a little while. And Brian came back almost instantly, exactly as I predicted. In fact, he came back like 2 episodes faster than I thought he would. So, they didn't even bother writing out the storyline. They just like, alright, we're done. Here we are, Brian's back. Have fun, guys! And, I haven't seen an episode of Family Guy since. Until now. Because, unfortunately, something just awful happened where there was some sort of a mix-up where Matt Groening and, Seth MacFarlane, they both kind of crashed into each other. And our Simpsons got it, our Family Guy, and you got my Family Guy and my Simpsons, and, mix-up crossover. It's desperate, alright? It's a crossover, okay? So, this is something that you do to go and mix together 2 fan bases. And I guess this has been long awaited for many years now, considering The Simpsons and Family Guy have kind of both have the same general plot. Family Guy has often been accused of a ripoff of The Simpsons, which is not fair because they just both happen to be animated sitcoms involving families, you know? Not really. I'd say Family Guy always kind of had its own bent on things. Very early on, Family Guy was highly postmodern. Not to use that word. I'm so pretentious. Look at me, postmodern. Yeah, postmodern, unfortunately, is the word, because it was kind of a story about characters who had been watching so much friggin' TV that they had lost all grip on reality. So Peter Griffin specifically, while trying to deal with real family situations, would just kind of think, oh, how would a sitcom dad do things? And you'd always be surprised when things didn't quite match up with that reality. And, of course, references and nonsense and cutaways. It was very fast humor. While The Simpsons, I mean, again, kind of a huge parody of American culture, it was always more character-driven, and it had its own massive cast of comedy and all sorts of things. So they all had very different styles, and they're not really compatible. In fact, over the years, I think they've gotten less and less compatible, because while The Simpsons very quickly kind of discovered what kind of show it wanted to be, and it's been that sort of generally quality entertainment for years and years. I'd say the last, maybe like 4 years or so, I stopped watching The Simpsons regularly. I'll check in if like something big happens, but it's not something I need to watch anymore. I love The Simpsons. I mean, great shows. I could talk about hours. There's fantastic episodes. You know, like, I don't even want to get into it, but, you know, of course you love The Simpsons. I was born in 1991. I love The Simpsons. Everybody loves The Simpsons. It's a cornerstone of American civilization now. Where Family Guy has, just kind of... I made this point a year ago, but it's worth reiterating. It's just gotten so lazy. Like, they ran out of steam back in season 5. Like, maybe like a season after Fox bought them back. they completely ran out of steam, and at this point, they just started becoming like really hateful anti-humor. Like it's just become like Seth MacFarlane. He looks at his show and he's amazed that he's still on television. In fact, he can't believe he's still on television. The writers can't believe it either. My fucking God, we get paid to do this? Holy shit. Oh, so it's just like really lazy, and you get the sense that there's so much like frustration and hatefulness coming out of this show. I don't understand it. Writers of Family Guy, why are you so mean-spirited? You are extremely wealthy people getting paid a large amount of money for a very glamorous profession, which is beloved by millions of people somehow. I don't know how you've managed to keep a fan base, but you do. It's beloved by people, so why are you so angry all the time? I don't understand. Why do you gotta be so cruel to Meg? And so cruel to just everybody? What is this, like, anarchist madness behind you people? You know, like, it's disgusting, really. The show is unwatchable. It's been unwatchable for a long, long time. And I've been down this route before. So anyway, the big deal this season was that there's going to be crossovers. There's going to be a crossover between The Simpsons and Family Guy. And they've been promoting this. I think was first, like, announced maybe 2 years ago. And it's been promoted for about a year now. I mean, it's kind of been really drummed up. Fox, of course, is in love with the idea because it's people watching their show again. I mean, their Sunday night lineup is kind of turning into just a rotting corpse already. I don't even know if American Dad's still on the air. And American Dad consistently was a better show than Family Guy. Like, for years and years. Its first season sucked, but from what I've seen of American Dad, damn good all the way. It's unfortunate it had such a low audience. Cleveland Show always sucked. If you really want to watch a good animated comedy, family comedy, whatever, that still feels fresh and it's alive and, you know, interesting things are happening every week, you gotta watch Bob's Burgers. I mean, the characters on Bob's Burgers are just such live wires. You know, you got H. John Benjamin as Bob. Christian Schaal, who may be my least favorite comedian of all time, on that show makes for just one of the best anythings. And you gotta love everybody that's on Bob's Burgers and the kinds of things that go on. It's the successor to The Simpsons, I'd say. Like, that's a show Fox should be proud of. It's in season, like, 5 now or something along those lines. I mean, that's a show I'll watch. That's fantastic. And, we'll get to Bob's Burgers in a moment. Anyway, this crossover, from the get-go, has a major problem. And that problem is that it's a Family Guy flavored crossover. If you're gonna make a crossover, you gotta pick which show it's going to be on. The Simpsons and Family Guy are not made by the same creative team by any level, on any way. When the Jetsons met the Flintstones, that was easy because they were both Hanna-Barbera cartoons and probably written by the same people, so they gelled together really nicely. Simpsons and Family Guy, not so much. And Family Guy went and took the reins, and they got an hour-long special for this. It's written and directed by Family Guy regulars. Patrick Meighan wrote it. I think he might have been on The Simpsons for a little while, but he's a Family Guy now, too. He's a Family Guy guy. And it's directed by Peter Shin, who is just 100% Family Guy all the way. Just, you know, he's family guy. He's a Family Guy. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about anymore. So, one positive I'll give for this crossover, just to start out, is they actually managed to blend together the Simpsons theme and the Family Guy themes well enough. I believe the composer for the show is Walter Murphy or Ron Jones. I'm not sure who exactly composed this episode, but they managed to get kind of the swirly kind of Family Guy music to mix in well with the general Simpsons theme, which sorry, I have a cold. I may be coughing a few more times, but this show is unscripted, so I may not cut that out. Who knows? I think that's Danny Elfman did the Simpsons theme. I'm 99% sure. So anyway, those two musical styles blended well, and you can kind of feel like this is The Simpsons being composed by the Family Guy producer, or a Family Guy music composer, and you can kind of see, these are two styles coming together, and musically that was really good. And I'm like, all right, that seems good. Animation style, I mean, I guess there's nothing bad I can say about it. Just that Family Guy generally, the animation quality has been going up a lot, but it's never been a very well animated show by any standards. I mean, it's just kind of lots of wide shots. It's just kind of the same crap over and over again. And I've never really liked anything animation-wise that Family Guy's managed to do. Even its more elaborate shots I've never really thought have been great animation, but it's not really supposed to be. Even so, their take on the Simpsons characters, pretty well. It looks like Springfield. You can kind of look at it and see it's a Simpsons episode. It's just kind of a lot of the shots were so flat and whatever. It didn't really seem Simpsons-y. The angles that they're using didn't feel like one that would be on The Simpsons. It seemed like, again, Family Guy taking The Simpsons, and it didn't work that well, I thought, the animation style. If any of this makes any sense to you, I'm sorry if it doesn't. But let's get to the actual episode, because this is where things go bad. Alright, so first we start out, we got the Family Guy theme, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that all stuff plays. The Simpsons are not involved in the opening, and the first 5 episodes are, not 5 episodes, first 5-10 minutes are just a Family Guy episode. I think they had some leftover B-plot from an episode that they couldn't stuff any other way, and they're like, we'll throw it in this. So, Peter Griffin becomes a cartoonist for a newspaper comic. And rather annoyingly, despite Brian going and saying, newspaper comics takes a lot of work and craft and all that stuff, Peter Griffin manages to master it in about 5 minutes. Yeah, I actually respect the craft of drawing comics and all that sort of stuff. They don't give two fucks, Family Guy. So, he has a few, okay puns here and there. I wasn't laughing at all at this point, because why would I ever laugh at Family Guy? It hasn't been funny in so long. So eventually gets to the point where Peter Griffin goes and makes a sexist comment, where the one guy goes and has his dead wife there, and he says, my dishwasher is broken because the wife's dead and she was the dishwasher. Ha ha ha! And this starts a blogger revolt against Peter Griffin, so everyone gets really mad at them. Again, when I said Family Guy is kind of really hateful, it seems like they're mad at some sort of a response that happens. I don't even know what the hell they're mad at, but this all feels like some sort of a take that to something, and I don't know what the take that is. I don't know what the that is in the take that. What are you yelling about? I don't even understand. So, an angry mob comes to their house, so the Griffins all run away, and they're off to Springfield. Or, well, they're driving a random location, and they somehow or another end up at a state that they can't say which one, because it's Springfield, the great mystery. And, eventually, their car gets stolen, and they're left living at the Simpsons' house for a little while. And, they're at the Simpsons' house. So, at this point, the major characters kind of come together. They go and they separate everyone off according to who they think they'd work best with. So Bart Simpson and Stewie come together. Brian, actually we'll ignore Brian right now. Lisa and Meg, they come together. Homer Simpson and Peter come together. Those are the 3 that they thought would really work well. Leaving the other characters in, so Lois and Marge, they have nothing for these 2 characters to do, so they do nothing. They're barely in this episode. And this is an hour long, too. I'm astounded by that. They had nothing at all for Lois and Marge to say together. And it feels so awkward just saying these names in the same place. But, yeah, I know. It doesn't feel right, and the episode really isn't animated right, so we'll get on to that. So, the other characters that are left over, it's Brian, Chris, and, Maggie. So, Maggie has nothing to do. And I was waiting for Maggie and Stewie to have some kind of an interaction, because I'd say those are the 2 characters that play the best together. Maggie's always had a devilish streak. She shot Mr. Burns. She's actually Kodos's daughter, if you remember that. She rescued Homer in one episode. It was actually a recent episode where he went to Shelbyville and she rescued him. She bowled a perfect game. I mean, there's a lot going on with Maggie, but they have nothing for her to do. And so Stewie hangs out with Bart. The idea being that Stewie is kind of a troublemaker psychopath, and Bart is kind of a 90s style Dennis the Menace, just troublemaker. You know, back in the day, it was funny to imagine that Bart would be considered like, moral guardians would freak out against Bart just because, oh, I'm an underachiever and proud of it. You know, like those sorts of things, and eat my shorts. But now it just seems all so mild. Like, you know, this is The Simpsons, like, what was considered edgy back in the early 90s now just seems like an accurate representation of the United States. I think at some point we've become the satire. We've exaggerated ourselves as much as The Simpsons said we would. Hopefully we don't exaggerate ourselves to Family Guy levels, because at that point I think I'll just go to Syria and join ISIS, because fuck Family Guy and fuck everything about it. Oh yeah, it's Bart and Stewie. So, during their plotline, there's a few moments that seem to have been tailor-made by the writers, specifically to piss people off. Like, they threw these in just to be really, really shocking, just so that they get people mad. And they succeeded, congratulations, but I'm kind of more cynical about this. I'm not just gonna get naturally mad, because I think this entire episode's bullshit as I'm coming into it. So, Bart goes and calls up Moe, as he always does, and leaves one of his patented little puns there. I think it's, something spilling out of his pants. I don't remember the joke, but it was actually a pretty good call-up pun. So, you know, Moe goes around, he's like, does anyone see anything oozing out of my pants? Oozing out of my pants! And, everyone laughs, of course, and Moe doesn't even get his normal, like, if I find you, I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna stab you right in the heart. I'm gonna crucify you right on town square, you know? Like, he doesn't do any of that. There wasn't anything there. So, Stewie's like, ooh, I want to try. And, he calls up and he's like, oh, Moe, your sister's been raped. So, yeah, that's the joke right there, because he said the word rape. Man. I feel like I'm watching movie 43 again. Jesus Christ. So, later, Bart gets bullied by Nelson, and Stewie kidnaps Nelson, locks him in the garage, and forces Nelson to eat his shorts. And this after long torture segments. It's like, it feels so wrong, because, like, this wouldn't happen in Springfield. Nelson getting kidnapped, this kind of horrible darkness right here. What the hell? Like, I don't think Simpsons do rape jokes. Like, there might have been one somewhere during the course of that show. But, like, never, like, they wouldn't use the word rape, like, right outside right there. And it's kind of like Family Guy, like, yeah, this is the kind of show we are. Take it. Don't you love us? Love us. Love us. Do you love us yet? Look how shocking we are. Come on, love me. Love me. You know, I don't fucking know what Family Guy's deal is anymore. Like, what level are you even operating on? You know, is it hateful anti-humor that you're disgusted that people are even watching you anymore? Is it just like shock out, gross out humor? Or are you just like desperate? Like at this point, like you'll try anything to keep people watching. Like no matter what ridiculous shit. And this actually reminds me, part of the reason why I was mad that this crossover happened in the first place is because years and years ago, I don't even remember what season, it might have been season 5, it was around the time that I decided, you know what, I'm done with Family Guy. It was one of those jokes, like the Conway Twitty bit, where the show went over to Conway Twitty and never came back. You know, one of those things. Or the episode where Peter Griffin became gay, which may be just the worst half hour of television of all time. I'm talking just unbelievably homophobic stuff. Like, oh, they managed to genetically change Peter Griffin into a gay guy. That means he has to abandon his family because gay people can't love anybody. They just have to have huge orgies. That's what gay people do. Like, fuck off. You don't know shit. You get the fuck out of here. Anyway, one of those jokes was Quagmire was sleeping with Marge. And then Homer comes back, And Quagmire, freaking out, shoots Homer. You see all of this from outside Evergreen Terrace. And he shoots Homer. Then Bart comes up, and Quagmire shoots Bart. Then Lisa shoots Marge. The baby shoots Maggie. And that was the joke. Look, Quagmire murdered the Simpsons. That's the joke. Why? How? Tell me what about that on any level is funny. Like, how am I supposed to react with anything other than just being pissed off? And I'm sorry if I'm more mad than I've been before. Actually, the last post I did on Atlas Shrugged, I thought I was a little slow in that one. I thought I needed more energy. So here we are. Something that actually makes me mad. You wanted I wanted energy. I'm supplying energy. Nobody commented on that video. Nobody has any complaints. Oh, you guys love everything I do. There you are. Great. Where the hell was I? Yes. Other plot lines. Lisa and Meg coming together. So Meg is the abused stepchild of the Family Guy family, the Griffins, and Lisa's like horrified by how bad her self-esteem is, and Lisa, being Lisa, wants to go and help Meg out. So she's like, well, Meg, your life means something, and of course Peter has to yell up, Meg, your life means nothing. And he yells that out, and it's like, I don't believe, like, how would the actual Simpsons react if, they have a house guest who's just, like, blatantly abusing their daughter right there? Like, there's a level of realism, or, like, a level that these characters will react in somehow. Like, how does Lisa not confront Peter at this point? Like, that's, on Family Guy, that kind of just, like, mean-spirited hatefulness will just be accepted. Like, Peter will just, like, fart in Meg's face and she'll puke and everyone will laugh. Because, the show's just full of hate about everything. It's a horrible show. Just awful. Truly awful. And, during the course of it, Meg turns out to have a lot of talent with the saxophone. And Lisa, at first, is really jealous and is unhappy about this. Then finally, she, Meg needs this more. And she gives Meg her saxophone. And then, what attempts at what might have been a touching moment, Peter just throws the saxophone into the trash before they even drive off. Oh my fucking god. Fuck you, Family Guy. Again, this ain't the most sophisticated of criticism. I'm sorry, but again, fuck off. So, plotline 4. These are characters that they didn't really know what to do with, so it's Brian and Chris, because, I don't know, they couldn't think of anything for Chris and Bart to do, so Brian and Chris are together, and they're walking Santa's little helper, and Santa's little helper escapes. So they run after him, and, Brian seems to be in rare form lately, because they've transformed him from the voice of reason to kind of, there was a while where they were building his character where he was kind of like a really depressed, alcoholic, artistic type, and then at some point they decided, you know what, he was too intelligent, we're gonna make him a parody of all pretentious assholes. So now, everything Brian says is just like an insufferable parody. Like, you can imagine him as some sort of a comedy Twitter account of pretentious guy at the coffee, or that guy in your MFA class, which is actually a Twitter account I am following. It's a very good one. That's way off topic. But anyway, Brian's like, oh, this dog doesn't know he's repressed. I'll take his belt off. And then Santa's little helper runs off. And there's a lot of really just unfunny stuff about Brian and Chris trying to pretend that Santa's little helper's in the other room, and Chris doing voices badly. Seth Green isn't exactly the master of the voices, He's just, he's good with voices, but, like, I'm not buying it here, and didn't seem like he was really trying. Anyway, the dog comes back at the end, and everyone thinks happy. Main plotline is Peter and Homer. And Peter and Homer go out to go and find the car. So they do a few ridiculous things. There's one moment where they have a cutaway gag, or, like, Peter starts to set up the cutaway gag, and, Homer, being Homer, is like, what the hell are you doing? And Peter's just like, just say, reference something random. So they wind up in a World War I fighter, and Bob from Bob's Burgers shows up. And they're like, oh, this guy, yeah, we've had to carry him for years. And like, Bob's Burgers is such a better show than you could ever hope to make, Family Guy. So even the worst Bob's Burgers episode that they've ever made, and I can't name anything off the top of my head, because generally I've liked every Bob's Burgers episode. Even the worst one is 10,000 times better than the best Family Guy episode they've made in at least 7 years. And as for best one, so this might be an above average Family Guy episode, but maybe the one where it's Stewie and Brian go to Las Vegas. That might have been the last, like, legitimately good one they've ever made. I'm sorry to say. But again, off topic, they've managed to find the car. This after they do fat jokes where Peter and Homer go out and, like, dress in lowrider jeans and, you know, try to do a sexy car wash thing. It's the joke from Grown Ups 2, where it was just guys doing sexy car washes, except now it's fat guys. And it's funny because they're fat guys. Whoopee! Yay, I was so not laughing this entire episode. Man, was my face straight. So, they find the car eventually, and then it comes down to, they go to Moe's, and they start drinking their respective beers, and then Homer starts drinking Pawtucket Patriot, that beer, and he pulls it off the label, and it turns out it's Buff, or Duff beer. It turns out Pawtucket Patriots are actually just Duff beers rebranded. And then Peter's response is, Duffs haven't been good in 13 years. And do you see where we're going here? This is kind of the justification they have for this crossover. It's kind of Family Guy's a ripoff, which is not the plotline they needed to go and bring up. There's definitely more interesting places you could have gone with these two guys. Like, just having the two families bounce off each other, which would have been fine if the Family Guy side of things were real characters instead of just monsters. So, yeah, I have a lot of problems with this episode in case you haven't noticed, but anyway, the deal is just them exchanging the stock angry comments about each other. So Family Guy is accused of being a Simpsons ripoff, and the Simpsons is accused of not being good in many, many years. And they just yell at each other for a while, and they actually go to trial, where they have the various casts of Family Guy talking with the various casts of The Simpsons to kind of like show that Family Guy people are ripoffs, even though the ones that they show aren't exactly like, they're not very good constructs. Like, they're not very good, like, similarities. One that's good is actually Stewie and Mr. Burns, because they are basically the same character, except Stewie's a baby, and they both have their bears. But, like, one of the things they try to compare is, the gay guy on Family Guy that goes, oh no, that guy, and he's sitting next to Smithers when they're not the same character at all. And what was one? It was Quagmire and Lenny, I think. Not really the same character at all. The one funny moment, and actually one single funny moment, is while they have Family Guy people in The Simpsons in the courtroom crowd, one person they have sitting next to himself is James Woods. So you got Family Guy colored James Woods and Simpsons colored James Woods. Because James Woods had a cameo on The Simpsons like 15 years ago when he was working at the Quickie Mart. And I'm like, oh, two James Woods. Okay, that's actually funny. After all this time, we found something that's actually funny. They didn't have Simpsons Adam West and Family Guy Adam West, though. Not sure why they didn't. I mean, Adam West was on The Simpsons. Why doesn't Batman ever dance anymore? Remember the Bat-Tusi? No, whatever. You don't care. So, Pawtucket Patriot is decided to be a ripoff. And for a while, it looks like things are about to end. Then they realize they have like 10 minutes left in the episode. So to kill what time was remaining, they had Peter and Homer just beat the shit out of each other. And this is the grand chicken fight kind of deal. So it goes on for 8 minutes, and Springfield is destroyed, and they end up on the space alien thing, and they wind up falling down Springfield Gorge, because, that old reference. And it just feels wrong. It feels so wrong to, like, it's weird seeing blood at all on The Simpsons, like, gushing blood. And it's, like, really weird when, like, Homer's getting the shit kicked out of him. Like, Homer takes things, like, he'll take a lot of physical comedy, but usually by the end of it, he's fine. Like, it's just funny, but, like, it's not, like, actual wounds or anything like that. It's not teeth getting knocked out, usually. It's not him getting crushed by an alien spaceship at the end and somehow being fine unexplainably. So yeah, I didn't like this particular bit either. Because why would I? It's 8 minutes of just kind of rampant violence. Like, once upon a time, these chicken fight deals were funny. Like, back when their Y2K parody. Oh, Y2K, where it's Walk Amongst the Tombstones of Liam Neeson again, isn't it? But no, so the Y2K parody. In that episode, there's just a random cutaway where Peter Griffin starts fighting the chicken. It becomes this huge, grand satire of, action movie fights. That was actually funny, because, you never seen it anymore. It kept going, like it was anti-humor, but it was like, wow, how far are they going to go? And, it's like, got all this drama to it, but it's such a ridiculous idea. It's Peter fighting a chicken. And then they did it like 9 more times, and it was progressively less funny each time. And now it's like, all right, it's Peter and Homer fighting, but like the kinds of things that are happening, it's Springfield that's getting destroyed. Why? Springfield is like my childhood right there, Seth MacFarlane, why are you raping my childhood? Everyone says George Lucas raped their childhood, but this is actually like, getting close to raping childhoods here. And, it just kind of ends with the both like, yeah, I'm me and you're me, and actually, I don't really know what the final note of this episode is. I don't think they ever actually determined that there was really a point for this crossover to happen. They couldn't think of, like, a good reason why these two characters would interact, really. And they never come up with one. And then the Family Guys go back to Family Guy Land, and Springfield, I guess, gets rebuilt somehow, and that's it. The end of the episode. And it just kind of all sort of fell apart. And tune in next week for more Family Guy, if you could dare stomach it. One thing about The Simpsons is, like, again, like, they're saying, like, it hasn't been good in so many years, but there've actually been good episodes of The Simpsons last season. Did you see the Lego episode? The Lego episode was amazing. Like, it had bad timing to come right out after the Lego movie, but, like, that was a really, really great episode. Like, showed so much about Homer and Lisa's relationship, and, Lisa growing up, and Homer kind of, like, trying to accept, that Lisa will eventually leave his life, and, they don't really get too much heartfelt bonding time together, and there was so much going on. I love that episode. It was this great mystery plot and everything else about it. Fan-fucking-tastic. Bravo, Simpsons. Like, you still write consistently good stuff. And one thing you might have noticed is that during this episode, or during this review, I was kind of talking more about the Family Guy characters, because that was the real problem with this crossover. It never really felt like the Simpsons were real. It just kind of felt like they were walked in. Like, it took place in Springfield, but it felt like the Simpsons were stepping into Family Guy land. So, like, their interactions never quite felt right, and they never talked right. The voice acting seemed wrong. There was some sort of rhythm that was missing. It never really felt like The Simpsons had very much to do other than react to these insane people who had come into their lives. Like, there wasn't any sort of synergy between these two shows, not to use a corporate bullshit word, but fine. Energy, synergy, communication. It was just kind of like you shove two things together that don't mix. I've read bad fanfics where it's like Simpsons and Family Guy crossover. In middle school, there was a kid who went and wrote, that was his story for a creative writing class. It was Simpsons and Family Guy crossing over. And it felt as unnatural there as it does here, when people were actually paid to do it. And, people had oversight, and there were artists, and all these people, like, nobody, like, said, no, this doesn't quite work. And, of course, Family Guy wouldn't say it doesn't quite work. Family Guy doesn't give a shit anymore. And The Simpsons is still a cultural milestone. Over the summer, the FXX marathon, 12 days long, of Simpsons episodes one after another. Did you watch that? I saw as many as I could. And like, people love The Simpsons, even now. That's why the show is still lasting after all this time. How Family Guy's still going, I don't even fucking know. How South Park's still going, I don't know either. Again, going back to the example of Futurama. Futurama ended. And it ended well. It had a great final episode. It's sad that there aren't Futurama episodes anymore, but I can love what Futurama episodes there were. They had great episodes. They were declining in quality, so they stopped after a while. Family Guy should have stopped back in 2008. It should have stopped back in 2005, probably, you know? That fourth season was maybe the last one it needed. It might have been fine, and it might have been fine not coming back from DVD. It would have kept that legendary mystique about it. We'd be looking back, Family Guy well. Seinfeld. I think I started with Seinfeld somehow, but I don't know where I'm getting the idea I was talking about Seinfeld. I've been talking for a long time, so I've kind of lost track of things. But Seinfeld, 9 seasons, it ended at a point. It ended at a logical point. So you look back, happy with Seinfeld. Would you be happy about it if it was still running today with bald Jerry Seinfeld and, everyone else looking like ancient? It's just, you gotta let go after a while. And both these shows have their tiredness. Like The Simpsons will get like 2 good episodes a season. I'd say it's about time for them to wrap it up. It's fine. We love you for what you are. You've already become basically last year's pop culture talk. One thing that showed up was Barney Rubble? No. Fred Flintstone. How I can forget Fred Flintstone's name when my dad's name is Fred, but whatever. Anyway, he showed up. They don't make Flintstones episodes anymore, but does it mean that people love the Flintstones any less? No. It's something of the past already. The Simpsons is already of last generation's entertainment. We have new things now. We have Bob's Burgers. We have all kinds of new sitcoms, Modern Family. I don't watch Modern Family, but I hear it's okay. You can go watch that. There's all kinds of comedy shows on television. But you don't need the same fucking one to last forever, especially when it's a rotting corpse of itself. So again, just like I said back in 2013, and I'll say it again in 2014, Family Guy, please stop. This crossover sucked. This was bad television. It felt sad. That was my thing. It just felt really sad, because every episode of Family Guy feels sad. And The Simpsons is just kind of really uneven quality. I actually saw their premiere, and I have nothing at all to say about that premiere except for its opening. The couch gag was amazing. It was a completely insane couch gag. It made no fucking sense at all. Sorry. It made no fucking sense at all. It was like, if David Lynch had done a couch gag. It was actually the guy who did Rejected, Don Hertzfeldt, I think. Anyway, nuts. So you see, there's still something that Simpsons can offer us. Family Guy has nothing. So stop watching the show. Do everybody a favor. I'm not going to watch the show next week. I'm not going to talk about Family Guy next week. That's it. I talk about it once a year. And that's too much already. So, anyway, if you've listened this entire time, thank you very much. I do love the fact that I have listeners at all. It surprises me every time. Great having you. I hope to have a new freelancing up faster than how I usually do it. But again, always fun to talk with you guys. Please comment this time. I feel very lonely. It really depresses the ever-living shit out of me when I go and I post something and I get no comments at all. I just reviewed Gone Girl, and that was I think one of my best reviews ever. I looked at that and when I finished, I'm like, damn, that was really, really good. I love what I've written here. And I got no response. That's really sad. Seth MacFarlane ain't even fucking trying, and people are responding to him. He's getting all kinds of hate mail. Where's my hate mail? I'll take it. So anyway. Actually, I think the next thing we're talking about is Left Behind. There's a Left Behind movie coming. and it's got Nicolas Cage in it. So I'm going to talk about Left Behind, and there's actually a really good HBO show called The Leftovers that has the same plot done well. So we'll see about that. So thank you, Space Monkeys. Have a good night.